Well, it's Thanksgiving, just as autumn gives way to the inevitability of winter. Now, last time if you remember, I instead wanted to cover Over the Garden Wall, Cartoon Network's masterpiece of a miniseries that was incredibly somber, mature, and beautiful, and was perfect for the autumn season. But that wasn't my first choice. Maybe Thanksgiving-y. Freebirds? Nah, better not. And, let's finally do it. Hell yeah, Freebirds! Reggie and Jake went back in time to the first Thanksgiving turkey getting Thanksgiving explosion! Freaking Freebirds! I've actually been building up this video for a while, especially if you pay attention to some of my other content and videos, so it really was inevitable. But on the topic, it's actually kind of amazing how there's practically no Thanksgiving movies. Like, really think about it. Like, maybe there's some Thanksgiving specials or episodes made for shows, but for movies, you're out of luck. There's just like the Peanuts special and like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Hell, I think Easter has more holiday movies than Thanksgiving. So that alone makes Freebirds stand out as one of the few legit Thanksgiving feature movies. And it is undeniably a Thanksgiving movie, since the entire story is literally a duo of anthropomorphic turkeys going back in time to stop the first Thanksgiving so their kind never has to be annually eaten. It's such a bonkers idea, and yet, yeah, let's do it. Let's go all the way with it. Let's make an insanely over-the-top, fun, and epic Thanksgiving movie, because why not? It does help it to stand out, even with being one of the few actual Thanksgiving pictures out there that takes advantage of it. And it's helped to give it pretty much meme status as an over-the-top memetic movie, practically reinforced by the advertising. It's hard to tell if people like this movie ironically or unironically, or even if it's good or so bad it's good type thing. Is this a Thanksgiving classic in the making that deserves reputation? Or is this one big turkey that only got popular because of memes? So, since you have literally nothing better to do, let's check out Freebirds. So, is it just me or is it weird to see a feature animated movie that wasn't made by Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Blue Sky, or Illumination? Like, they've dominated the market, so any other studio feels practically non-existent. So, Freebirds is the first feature film of Real FX, who helped out in a few other animated movies. And doing some research, I found they also made The Book of Life the year later. Yeah, that one really great Day of the Dead movie, with legendary Mexican artist Jorge R. Gutierrez as a director. That was quite a surprise. That movie was great and a lot of fun, and maybe I should cover it next Day of the Dead. I don't want to make that a promise though. They also made Rumble, that one kaiju wrestling movie that I'm pretty sure no one actually saw, and I only remember because it was a joke in the first Ruby Gilman video. I mean, how many other kids movies have a kaiju fight with the main character? Okay, no one saw that. You know, that was based off a conversation I had with a friend. And yeah, the animation is pretty decent for the most part, but it does show its age and limitations in a few places, especially with the human characters. Ugh, jeez, that uncanny 3D threshold. Like, I don't know, man, this kind of feels like this reaches Ice Age 1 territory. Luckily, the turkeys themselves look mostly fine. At least Book of Life was freaking gorgeous, so you know they got better. But the movie starts immediately with a disclaimer to show they already know this movie is going to be insane, before hearing narration from Reggie, our main hero about as stupid as species is. Reggie is voiced by Owen Wilson, who is most well known for playing Lightning McQueen, once again being the anthropomorphic lead of an animated movie of questionable quality. Also, it was in some Marvel thingy recently, who cares. Starting off talking about holidays, including Day of the Dead. Maybe this was foreshadowing. And then going right into the plot as you meet his perspective being the holiday dinner. It also starts out with another, "Hey, this is me," the framing device that never actually seems to pay off in universe. Is Ruby Gilman like the only animated movie to do this and then make it fit perfectly in context? Now, Reggie's the only smart one since all the other turkeys are pea-brained doofuses without a thought in their head. This also makes him an outcast, fitting well into the odd one-out main character stereotype that every movie seems to do. Cinematic parallels. Reggie is the only one who knows about Thanksgiving dinner, but no one believes him. Until they randomly believe Reggie, and then also randomly decide to sacrifice him to the humans. It also randomly becomes day for no reason. And we haven't even gone to the actual time travel yet. But it wasn't actually Thanksgiving dinner, it was the President of the United States coming to get the pardoned turkey. Wow, this was not the year to make this video, I regret this instantly. Also, this news network is literally named Cock. And of course, the president's daughter picks Reggie Boy as the partner turkey, now free from his inevitable fate, as he probably leaves the others to die, but then again, they deserve it. Actually, since they randomly knew about the Thanksgiving slaughter, are they gonna have some off-screen revolution? Who knows? And I guess Reggie's like pet of the girl now and lives in the White House? Pretty sure it doesn't happen to the partner turkey, but I wish it did. That would be pretty funny.
And there's a cow and a chicken, and that's Paul. He's getting a divorce. Yay!
Jesus Christ, movie. Actually, yeah, this movie does have a fair share of humor like that, but it's actually good that it has that again to help give it an edge and to fit its bonkers story and tone.
That's the girl who likes my daddy. But don't tell anyone.
Well, I lied. They're not actually at the White House, but instead a woodland retreat. As he also experiences TV and orders pizza. Somehow. The movie confirms that he can't talk to any human, so how he ordered that is beyond me, but he's living the life. Well, at least the average tool I get, but hey, it's better than nothing. And what the hell, Chuck E. Cheese doesn't deliver? Well, okay, now it does, but it sure did it back in 2013. You telling me this is some forced product placement? I can't believe it. But the plot finally kicks in as Reggie's somehow kidnapped by a mysterious figure. It's Jake, this big, buff, sexy turkey man. Jake plays himself up like an epic agent on a secret mission, but it's soon shown he's actually a pretty silly meat-headed doofus. So now we got our marketable duo that they never actually made any merchandise for, as Jake is on a mission from the Great Turkey and Reggie thinks he's just crazy. But then again, didn't he say that like every other turkey was crazy? Is this really a surprise? As Jake gives us the most legendary moment in the movie, and honestly, all of animation.
Going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu.
And what can I add? It truly speaks for itself. I mean, they're going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu.
That's right. We're going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu.
But in all seriousness, it's kind of amazing. Like, this moment is so freaking forced and obviously just made as a joke for the trailer that it becomes hilarious in its own right. It's so forced and stupid, and yet the movie just revels in it. And no wonder that it became a whole meme, and it's pretty much the thing the movie's most known for. It fits right into the modern sense of internet humor, and like a lot of memes can easily be changed for any scenario. It really is the scene of all time.
Who are you talking to?
This guy right here. He totally gets it. Look, see how he's nodding?
Though actually, this part of the movie where Reggie and Jake work off each other is actually pretty great and funny, and some of the most underrated parts overshadowed again by that legendary moment.
A time machine.
A time machine?
A time machine.
Time machine.
A time... What? Who told you us need to figure out how to get past this impenetrable gate?
They need to get the time machine and to find the secret government facility, which Reggie does not want to do at all and wants to go back to his new perfect life. Jake already knows who Reggie is mysteriously. I sense a twist coming. But Reggie accidentally proves that there is indeed a secret government facility in the inconspicuous shed. I gotta wonder if this is like the main entrance or something, because how can you get hundreds of workers in through that shaft? But the facility is probably the coolest set piece in the movie and leads to a pretty good joke.
Lead us to the time machine.
They aren't gonna just write time machine on the...
Even if it does include more product placement, at least it really fits the joke. And Reggie tries to get help from the scientists who look like those guys from Monsters Inc., thinking he can use his partner turkey privileges, but ends up just being a target. Also gotta say, these guys are some of the funniest characters in the movie, and they got such great personality and scenes. They should have been in here more.
Should we report this? Too much paperwork. Let's roast them.
Also with another notable scene that was again just trailer fuel, but still works well with meme culture.
Sir, how do we address it?
With cranberry sauce. Funny, right?
But seriously.
But this ties into the previously established stuff that the president is back in the time machine experiment with this general guy I swear came out of Monsters vs. Aliens with another great joke.
To travel through time.
Yes, sir! He'd better be. Chances of survival are almost zero. Wait, you never said anything...
Again, this movie has a surprisingly good sense of humor that somehow fits great with modern internet stuff. Again, this part of the movie is probably the best it gets. There's so many good scenes.
I'm not going up there.
I'm not going out there.
Haha, I'm definitely. Oh.
Sorry, bro.
2 weeks from retirement.
Good luck.
Like, it seriously makes me wish that this whole infiltration part was a whole lot longer, because you could have a lot of fun in the facility, in different rooms or dangers with more scientist scenes. But then again, it would pretty much just be padding, so maybe it's best to get the brief. Personally, I do wish that it was longer. But it's not long before they do make it through the time chamber, and of course the machine is egg-shaped, why wouldn't it be? It's actually one of the best looking shots from the movie, maybe the best, as the turkeys take the machine for themselves. Also, the time machine is named Steve and is voiced by George Takei, because what else would it be?
I am Steve, Steve.
Also, I have no idea how they're able to understand the turkeys when they establish multiple times that they're just gobbling and not talking. And after a pointless transformation sequence that must have been held the animators, they reached Plymouth in 1621, 3 days before Thanksgiving. Wait, Jake said to take them to the first Thanksgiving, not the 3 days before. Stupid time machine can't even work right. But they did it. They went back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off the menu. It's incredible. But back to the story, Reg isn't able to go back since Steve needs to recharge, so he has no choice but to stick with Jake. Now, you gotta give this movie props. It's pretty wild and unpredictable. It has a really fast pace and constantly changes the plot and keeps it interesting and off the wall and fitting at the same premise. It makes it pretty fun to watch. However, from this point on, the movie does become a lot more conventional. Like, not bad per se, but loses that unique feeling and identity it has, and its anything goes nature in its plot and humor. It does lose the steam it's built up, which is pretty unfortunate, but they do meet a hunter and sudden antagonist of the movie, Miles Standish, who actually was based off a real person. Like, legit, I just found this researching. And he was a military advisor hired by the Pilgrims, not a hunter. Wow, imagine being a key part of establishing America and making essentially the first army for your modern legacy to be a generic villain hunting birds as if it was open season. They honestly should have just made a new character.
I don't want to wear short pants. No.
He also has weirdly rendered dogs. Is it just me? But Reggie's saved by Girl Reggie. 1. Why does the turkey have boobs? This is seriously bothering me. This is taking turkey breasts to a whole new level. 2. Apparently the old native turkeys are literally stand-in for Native Americans in design and culture, which is pretty questionable, honestly, especially since later there will be actual Native Americans who appear out of nowhere. Like, is this some kind of cultural appropriation? I genuinely don't know. There's also these two weirdo turkeys who I seriously don't know what their deal is, they just exist. One looks like if that taco guy from Turbo was an Angry Bird, but they meet with the hidden community of wild turkeys as Jake gets into a random rivalry with his Smash Bros. Echo Fighter Ranger. And it gets weird. Also, Girl Reggie is actually named Jenny and is the standard action girl boss love interest for our dorky lead. But at least she's a little fun.
Oh, I fell out of the nest when I was a baby.
Oh, so that's why your eyes.
What's wrong with my eye?
But is Jenny really a native-like name? Again, this assistant is weird. Though we also see the settlers and their perspective that they're starving and will all die out if they don't get the feast in a few days, and why they're so desperate for mouths to get the quarry. You know, I will give them credit that they do both sides of the conflict and make the pilgrims sympathetic when they really didn't have to. They could have gone all open season with it if they wanted. Come to think about it, is it like a Gaston situation where from the villagers' perspective, the villain is really the hero of the story? I mean, it's not like they know the turkeys are sapient. They also talk about trying to make an alliance with the Native Americans who survive, which is a plot thread that might as well not matter for how underdeveloped it is. We also get introduced to the stereotypical chief, voiced surprisingly by Keith David. Did not expect him to be in this movie.
Jake, you speak with deep conviction.
Well, I can speak even deeper, if you like.
Who's also Jenny and Ranger's dad, of course. They're actually pretty trusting of the two immediately, especially trying to stop Thanksgiving, but the increase of hunters was such a problem that it already forced them underground. The movie does point out the differences between modern and old turkeys, that the modern ones lost all their intelligence after being domesticated, which is actually true to real life, as domesticated turkeys did lose all their survival instincts compared to wild turkeys, which are actually difficult to hunt. But also Native Americans had domesticated turkeys themselves, so it's not entirely accurate. The native turkeys need help to raise the next generation, who all act like they fit comfortably at the end of a slingshot. This is where the movie legitimately starts to take itself seriously, which is a bit of a double-edged sword, as well, it's starting to become a movie, but it loses so much of its fun and zany charm. Like, it starts to be more formulaic and predictable when the first part was anything but. And it feels like a massive tonal shift that can cause issues almost as if it's fighting itself. Like, it still wants to have that off-the-wall humor, but now it's supplemented with legitimate attempts at pathos and drama. It could be a lot to take in. Also, can we quit it with the Jake butt jokes movie? Seriously? Also, I guess history repeats itself.
These turkeys, they're up to something. Those chickens are up to something.
Or, I guess timeline-wise, it would later. It also tries to develop Reggie and Jenny's relationship, but it's the usual standard romantic subplot stuff for these types of movies. Also superseded by Jake and Ranger's romantic subplot. The movie treats it like it's not there, but believe me, there is something going on between them. I mean, look at this! But there is a development that despite Steve being fully charged, that Reggie doesn't want to go back to his old life because he's now in love with Jenny, and they shared intimate moments, which is actually an interesting point in legitimate character growth, since earlier Reggie adopted a lone wolf persona after seeing it on TV. I didn't mention it before because it was entirely irrelevant until now, but he gets cock-blocked by Jake, saying that they need to take the offensive tonight before Thanksgiving tomorrow, as the great turkey told him, as Reggie's just sick of his crap. But Jake gives his actually pretty tragic backstory where, unlike Reggie who grew up on a farm, Jake grew up in a factory where all the turkeys were fattened up and caged to be food. He was hidden from the humans, had to leave his family to try and see the next generation anywhere else, but failed as he's the only one who escaped. And it's like, damn movie, you're getting serious here. Again, for a movie as silly as this, even the premise while it's stopping Thanksgiving, it's pretty jarring for such a cartoonish, over-the-top movie. It's only getting to the horrors of factory farming and giving its dopey characters such a tragic backstory. Like, it's such tonal whiplash, but also like genuine stakes and meaning behind the plot. It's like the movie takes a legitimate anti-Thanksgiving stance, which is weird because it's undoubtedly a Thanksgiving movie. Like, what is it trying to say? Is Freebirds trying to have a point? I legitimately can't tell. Come to think about it, how are kids gonna react after seeing this movie and then coming home to have to then eat the turkey? Is there a person who became vegan after seeing this movie? I legit want to know. I wonder, does PETA like this movie? Actually, I doubt it, since they spend more time making crappy publicity stunts than actually helping animals. But while Jake is at his lowest moment, failing everyone he knew and himself, the great turkey arrived in a beam of light and told him of his destiny and gave him the time knob. And yeah, it's kind of obvious to see what's actually going on. They should have hit it more. Inspiring Jake, presumably years in the future with how much he's grown, to stop Thanksgiving and get Reggie's help. Jake has a plan to destroy the hunter's weapon so they can't be hunted anymore, as Reggie's all into it, mostly to get with Jenny. Jake also steals Miles' powder horn because, well, the plot needs him to, as they blow up the weapons and save the day. No Thanksgiving anymore. And that's why we don't celebrate Thanksgiving today. The more you know. Though Jake not only took the horn because reasons, but they need to prove to the others that they did wreck the fort. But this also made a trail right to the turkey's hideout. God, how much powder was there? Must have been like an infinite amount. As they screwed up everything, as the sanctuary is torched, and you have to evacuate as many get captured. Also, this guy seriously nearly burned his own dogs alive. But Jake luckily saves the babies before they become popcorn chicken. Also, keep David Chief sacrifice himself so everyone can escape. And yeah, it's a legitimate death in the movie, funeral and everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it works too well. One, we kind of barely got to know him, so it's hard to get a genuine emotional attachment to him. And it feels more like there was some obligation for the movie, like they had to add in a serious moment to make it work. And again, it adds to the tonal whiplash of the movie, where it becomes so over the top and goofy, just to suddenly try and genuinely pull at your heartstrings with a character death. And once again, the movie is kind of fighting itself. Like, really, what are we doing here? Even when I first watched it as a kid, well, like 14, I felt this wasn't really earned. It feels like it's trying way too hard to be a conventional movie when it really shouldn't be. Speaking of which, Jenny is apparently chosen to be the chief instead of Ranger, which I don't get since Ranger was once more of an active leader, while Jenny didn't really do anything leader-like in the movie, but again, conventions, and says they need to fight back. But Reggie blames himself and leaves the sulk and becomes one of the worst movie tropes ever, the third act, let's give up phase, where everyone acts like a jerk and gets all mopey for like 5 minutes until they spontaneously get inspired again. This trope is so bad, it's a complete slog to get through, and yet this movie has one practically beat for beat and not nearly justified as it thinks it is. It's just a complete pain to watch. It gets weirder though when he gets the mandatory inspirational pep talk from himself. A future version of himself inspiring him to take action. He never goes in the future to do this in the first place, so it's baffling even up to 3 times.
I'm back from the future to tell you something really important. What is it? You're an idiot.
You know what? I would do the same thing I passed off, honestly. And it really doesn't take long to inspire him at all, as he now has to go back to save everyone from the hands of the white man! What the hell even was B-movie, guys? But with the doorknob from the retreat Reggie released, he goes back to young Jake, proving that he was the Great Turkey all along and gave Jake his mission in the first place. I actually think this is a pretty great plot point, and arguably twist if it wasn't made pretty obvious in the flashback. Like, it's so weirdly fitting. How did Jake know where the time machine was and why he needed Reggie? Because Reggie from the future told him to. It's the perfect loop. Granted, it is a bootstrap paradox in that case, and there's gonna be more egregious paradoxes coming. But I do like how the movie goes back to being freaking insane again. Also, they say they need to hurry and go back in time to save the others before Thanksgiving, but like, aren't they in the future? Didn't that already happen? It's not like time periods always move in a linear fashion parallel to each other. What's the deal? But then again, this has like always been a thing for time travel movies, so just deal with it. But the turkeys really are out for blood this time. Can you just imagine genuinely seeing turkeys armed for war over the hill? I don't know if that would be hilarious or terrifying. Oh god, that's a knife! Then we get an infamous scene with the natives randomly showing up out of nowhere to get...
Those are some angry birds.
Oh, that hurt. Oh god. Yeah, that's definitely showing its age. What hurts it is that it's not just some sort of side joke, it's right in the center, and that's it. It's the definition of a forced reference. But, this movie's probably a better Angry Birds movie than the actual first Angry Birds movie. Apparently the settlers still had cannons despite all their weapons being destroyed last night. Did the Pilgrims even have cannons? Oh wait, they did, interesting. And before they all realized this was a really terrible idea, Reggie somehow was able to freeze the cannons in their place when this hasn't really happened before aside from maybe this scene. I probably should stop trying to analyze the plot holes in freaking Freebirds. But Miles tries to fire the cannons himself out of desperation and ends up being flung right into the time void or whatever. So, is he dead? I guess he is. Is he like erased from time? Either that or he's split between time and space. There's your secret right there. Miles becomes a time god and tries to stop turkeys from ever existing, and Reggie and Jake gotta go and stop him. Well, Miles, it was either that or bladder cancer, at least this way was a lot cooler. And Reggie stops the conflict and saves Thanksgiving by instead giving the settlers pizza. Really? You're gonna stop this war with freaking Chuck E. Cheese pizza? Come on, at least go for some Papa John's. And so, piece of pizza is made, as there's unity for turkeys, pilgrims, and natives that just randomly showed up. Like, the only buildup was the one line from the mayor or whoever invited them for a feast, but they're entirely irrelevant. Maybe it's for the best, and like this was the best representations of Native Americans out there.
Tastes like dirty sock. Still better than my wife's cooking, am I right?
And Thanksgiving was changed forever, now with turkeys spared from being dinner as everyone eats pizza instead. Come to think of it, turkeys still are going to be eaten regardless, even if Thanksgiving is the biggest time of demand for it. So there's still going to be turkeys for food. But wait, if the movie established that time exists as a loop, that altering the past just establishes it as predestination, as seen with Reggie inspiring Jake to go back in time in the first place, how are they then able to change the timeline? Even worse than if Thanksgiving was changed in the timeline, then Jake wouldn't need to go back in time to the first Thanksgiving in the first place, since now they never ate turkey. So this creates a grandfather paradox as well. Jeez, a lot of paradoxes in this movie. Or should I say paradox? Cause bird. Please call me. Anyway, with the day saved, Reggie decides to stay with Jane now that he has his own place in the past, giving up his barely established lone wolf persona, as Jay goes back to the future instead. Which is weird because he'd fit right in here, but I guess he's off to stop more turkey injustice since, as I said, there's a ton of other food with turkeys in it. Literally, the post-credit scene confirms it.
Have you heard about the turducken?
I'm with him on this. Turducken is pretty gross. As the movie ends with George Takei giving his iconic line for no reason, as Jake flies off into space to do something, and ends this weird movie. Anyway, after all that, I give it a 0 out of 10. They never actually played Freebird, what the hell? But in all seriousness, this is one tough egg to crack. How do you approach a movie like this? A movie that doesn't take itself seriously at all until it does, one that's completely unconventional until it becomes too conventional, and one that may or may not have a message that entirely undermines the entire movie's existence.
Up in a cold, clinical factory. The time we were born, we were fattened up on formula.
I could see the holidays for what they were. Time to share. A time to come together. To be with the ones we care about and who care about us.
It's kind of an enigma. It's even hard to say that the movie really lives up to its premise. Again, it's such a wild movie about turkeys going back in time to stop Thanksgiving. Hell, it feels like a movie too absurd to exist, but it does. And that's what arguably gives it its appeal. It's an insanely over-the-top premise, and at least in its first third or so, it starts to live up to it. I do think the movie kind of peaked there when it was at its most zany, creative, funny, and it's enjoyable. Like seriously, that secret facility was the best part of the movie, and I do wish it took up a larger part of the movie, like maybe up to the halfway point. It is unfortunate that the movie lost much of its steam when it actually paid off the Thanksgiving plot and became much more standard and formulaic. And as much as it is disappointing that the movie became more conventional and standard, I still wouldn't say it became bad per se. It's perfectly serviceable and did have some good jokes, scenes, and developments. But it loses what made it interesting in the first place and lost a lot of the dumb fun that came with it. As I said, it felt almost like the movie was fighting itself, still wanted to be wacky, zany, and over the top, but also now have many conventional aspects like generic villains, love interests, drama, and all. It almost feels like two different movies at times. Hell, I feel you can rework it to not have time travel at all. While it does make it a bit disjointed, it really makes it unique. It does simultaneously rate so bad it's good and legitimately good. It's kind of a weird situation. It can actually be pretty funny and clever at times, or it can just be weird and awkward, which still does manage to get some weird laughs from it, like this scene.
Shut up, Fatty. Oh, hey, Jerry.
Oh, hey, Mrs. Billow.
Also, this kid was reused like 3 times throughout the whole movie for some reason. From the inane premise to the weird writing and scenes, then the nearly uncanny animation, it's almost the closest thing we have to a meme movie. In the same way as B-movie being so bonkers and weird, yet also somehow works seamlessly to modern internet humor. So, in a weird way, I think its status is kind of perfect and arguably the best case for it. It already doesn't take itself too seriously, so being regarded as a weird little movie that appeals to people by the modern sense of the internet is pretty much the best legacy it can have. I kind of feel it was always trying to be that in its own way, and it gives it its own identity and value. And for basically the one mainstream animated Thanksgiving movie, can you ask for anything else but being one of the weirdest and most over-the-top kids films ever? I don't think so. So, I guess that does leave Freebirds as truly the Thanksgiving movie of all time. And you know what? Maybe I was too quick to disregard this movie a year ago. It probably would have been a lot better if I did this movie last year and do Over the Garden Wall this one. Also, because this is that show's 10-year anniversary and that would have been perfect, I really messed up there. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going back in time to the first Thanksgiving review to get Freebirds on the review list. That's right. I'm going back in time to the first Thanksgiving review to put Freebirds on the review list. Hope I still remember how to use this.
Freebirds? Nah, better not. What really shows off the feeling of fall that I got? Jesus!
Wait, stop what you're doing.
Who the hell are you?
I am you from the future with a bigger audience and better microphone quality. Heads up, you're gonna hate the first half of next year.
Well, why are you here?
I'm here to tell you to instead do Freebirds for your Thanksgiving review. Not many people are gonna watch it anyway.
Wait. If you're telling me this, then wouldn't the timeline change? Cause now you never even need to go back to tell me this in the first place. You know, the grandfather paradox?
Oh Yes, I really waited an entire year to set up this joke.
We all must put our differences aside. It's only one day, so we have to try. It's not about stuffing or gravy. All the food is bonus, now don't you see? For one day a year, all is forgiven when we come together on Thanksgiving.